While war rages in Ukraine and gas stations in Russia are experiencing shortages, Putin is calmly going about his business, such as selling his country lock and barrel to China, said Oleg Zhdanov. The expert supported his opinion with facts gleaned from Russian sources. Transbaikal. By the way, the preamble here needs to be expanded. The fact is that Putin constantly. This isn't publicized in the Russian Federation, but in other parts of the internet. In other countries, you can find information about Putin constantly signing treaties with China. All these treaties are classified as top secret. They're not publicized. My understanding is that he's ceding territory, especially natural resources, and accordingly, China is pursuing economic expansion into these territories. We know about deforestation. We know about pumping fresh water out of Lake Baikal, millions of cubic meters per year. A military expert said, surprised by the news from behind the curb. Zhdanov then expanded on the above with some interesting details. There's various information, but the Kremlin is officially keeping it all secret. So, Transbaikal is being destroyed to supply coal to China. The history of one valley is the genocide of its own people. This is what residents of villages in the Transbaikal territory, through which China is currently building a highway to transport coal from the Russian Federation to China, writes Russian citizens. I think the coal quarries have already been handed over to China because China is building a road, and China won't build a road to a Russian quarry. Most likely everything is already leased for 49 endless years. The residents of these villages are being sent to war in Ukraine. NSDC head Alexei Kovalenko says that negotiations between Beijing and Washington on possible strategic alignment could have catastrophic consequences for Russia and its so-called limitless partnership with China. Kovalenko noted that according to media reports, China has allegedly offered the US a $1 trillion investment package in exchange for lifting restrictions on Chinese companies and reducing tariffs. He believes this deal opens the door to strategic alignment between the two superpowers. For Russia, this is a catastrophic signal. The limitless partnership with China is losing weight. Moscow risks becoming a raw material appendage forever, ignored in key agreements. Beijing is diversifying supplies, reducing purchases of Russian energy resources, and shifting focus to new markets. The Kremlin is losing room for maneuver, even within BRICS, and global decisions on investments and security are being made without Russia's involvement, Kovalenko stated. Kovalenko also emphasizes that if the US and China reach a common stance on Russia's war against Ukraine, Putin will be reduced to a bystander. He says that while China negotiates with the US, Moscow pays the price for aggression, isolation, loss of markets, raw material appendage status, and strategic defeat. The NSDC head acknowledges that Russia can strike Ukrainian infrastructure, but it will be restored tomorrow with the help of Western partners. In contrast, Moscow faces retaliatory strikes, with no one assisting it infrastructurally or technologically. In the perspective of years, they might try to impose their will by unleashing a global war in Europe, but they will lose it. However, if the US and China agree on rapprochement, this won't happen, and Russia will lose its development prospects for the next 100 years, Kovalenko concluded.
U.S. President Donald Trump said it was an historic day as he headed back from Israel to celebrate the ceasefire deal. In an address to Israel's parliament, he urged lawmakers to seize a chance for broader peace in the region. In Egypt, he and other world leaders gathered to set the trickier parts of the deal into motion. According to Associated Press, Trump's plan holds out the possibility of a Palestinian state, but only after a lengthy transition period in Gaza and a reform process by the internationally recognized Palestinian Authority. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu opposes Palestinian independence. Trump made no mention of a two-state solution at the summit. A lot of people like the one-state solution, some people like the two-state solution. We'll have to see. I haven't commented on that, Trump told reporters aboard Air Force One. On Monday, the fragile ceasefire in Gaza led to freedom for Israeli hostages and the release of Palestinian prisoners held by Israel. It was the culmination of a long and tortuous process, but it may, in the end, have been the easier part. The coming weeks, months and years will require more than just rebuilding from the devastation that has left much of Gaza in ruins. Key details of the peace plan may remain unsettled. Granular details will need to be negotiated to keep the plan moving forward and prevent the resumption of fighting. The path to long-term peace, stability, and eventual rebuilding will be a long and very precipitous route.
Okay, thank you very much. So this was really a historic day, to put it mildly, right? Wasn't it amazing? It's about something very much different. We're talking about rebuilding Gaza. I'm not talking about single state or double state or two state. We're talking about the rebuilding of Gaza.
What's the road ahead for governing Gaza? Because
a lot of people like the one-state solution. Some people like the two-state solutions. We'll have to see. I haven't commented on that.
how do you see bridging?
That was a power room. Those people, those are the richest countries. I think now with tariffs, I think we're the richest country in the world, actually, the United States. We're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars. But those are, really seriously rich countries, and they can handle it. Erdogan can. He's respected by Russia. Ukraine I can't tell you about, but he is respected by Putin. And he's a friend of mine, you can see. Why? I get along with the tough ones. I don't get along with the weak ones. I get along with the tough ones. I don't know what that is, but Erdogan's been great with me. When NATO has a problem with Erdogan, which they often do, they call me to talk to him. And I've never failed in working it out immediately. Is that right? Okay, thank you very much. So this was really a historic day, to put it mildly, right? Wasn't it amazing? Even that last meeting, when you see the heads of those countries, those are serious countries, right? But I thought it was fantastic. And seeing the so-called hostages, but those kids come back home and the way their parents just went crazy. Your father would not be that way with you. He'd be okay, but he wouldn't be like that.
I would get a hug.
A hug, a minor hug. Okay, come on, Peter. Let's go. No, he would be. I'm only kidding. So, how you doing? Everybody okay? They said if you did Russia, or if you did, lots of different combinations, they say the Middle East blows it away. And I said, why? By experts. It's just thousands of years, nothing's been done. It's the whole thing with the Arabs, Jewish people, this, that, everybody. It's just never been done before. And there's a certain mystery to the Middle East. I mean, look, it's only because of ratings. You're only as good as the ratings, right? If they weren't getting ratings, your people at Fox would. And by the way, Trey is excellent.
He does a really good job. He and his whole team.
We did a very quick interview. I was running to the second one where we were pretty late.